Hey, you there?
Hi Derek, how are you?
Oh, doing very well, man. Let me turn up the volume a little bit.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank
How
you.
you doing, man?
Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, is it Marcello or Marcelo?
Marcelo.
Marcelo, okay. All
Yeah.
right, man.
So Rome was unbuilt in a day set for release on May 17th. Can you give us a glimpse into the creative process behind the album?
Well, we started writing the songs, most of the song, well, half of the songs, let's say, about 2018, about 4 or 5 years ago. And we had maybe three or four of the songs demoed that we liked. And then COVID hit, kind of threw everything off track, the next year. So we had some of the stuff in our pocket. And then along the way, I'd written a bunch of songs, and the guys gave me a lot of different ideas. And we knew we were going to put out an album. We just didn't know when. And it just came to fruition when we started talking to Perris Records again last year. And we put out the live album, Live Lightning. So that kind of led us to go back through our catalog and look at all the demos that we'd been doing over the last couple of years. And we had about 20 songs to choose from, and we picked what we thought for this album anyways as the best 11 for this album. So it took a little while, and that's why Rome wasn't built in a day. It took us a long time.
Were there any particular criteria or themes you aim to showcase with over
uh,
these 20 songs to choose from?
um, I think it just had to do with what we thought went together the best. Because we had some other songs that were really, really good songs, but maybe they were more commercial poppy like, I guess you'd say. That's the only way I could say it. Some songs we felt could be singles, but we were like, well, why don't we hold on to these till the next album too? Because we felt with that we had strong songs for this albums too. So the criteria was just what we thought. We knew we were going to do two albums, back to back. So we try to make sure that we had strong songs on both albums. That, I guess, that would be the criteria.
Are there any particular tracks from the album that hold special significance for the band, either lyrically or musically?
I think as for the band, I mean, I know just playing when we practice, I know that the second song of the album is a song called Pain. And I know everybody really likes playing that one a lot. Wrecking Machine, of course, everybody likes playing. Rome wasn't built in a day. For me, since I write all the lyrics and everything like that, I think the song called Face of God, that's the one that I think is a real big standout track just because I really like the lyrics and the melody a lot. Not to say that the other songs aren't just as good. It's just that for my soul, that's the one that I like the best, Face of
And,
God.
and how Craig and Dylan influenced the dynamic and sounds of the band since they joining?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Kind of broke
Uh,
up for a second.
How have Craig and Dylan influenced the dynamic and the sound of the band since they joined?
Oh man, they fit like a glove. It was so crazy because normally a band like us we'd audition maybe 5 or 6, 10 drummers, the same with bass players. And it was so weird because when we auditioned those guys, they came together as a package. They'd been playing together for about a year. And within 3 songs, they played Hammer Swings Down, Bango the Bells, and Kid Goes Wild with us. And it was just like a perfect fit. No mistakes. Everything was perfect, nice and heavy, still sounded exactly like Babylon AD. So then it was just off and running after that, man. It was such a seamless fit. We didn't have to even think about looking for anybody else. And the nice thing about having those guys in the band is not only do I write, John writes, Ron writes, the two guitar players, musical ideas. They write musical ideas too. So now I've got, basically 5 different places to draw from when I'm writing lyrics and melodies. Makes it a lot easier.
How did Dave Donnelly's expertise contribute to the overall sound quality of the album?
I think, the quality of the album is a lot better than our last album, Revelation Highway. We kind of rushed that one, and we had a lot of different songs that we'd already had in the can for many years, and we kind of threw new songs together with old songs. And this was just a different process. like I said, we wanted to pick the best songs that we had out of the 20 that we had for this album. And we know we've already got a lot of good songs for the next album. I think that David Donnelly, the guy that did our mastering, he's done Slash, Mötley Crüe, Santana. He's done tons of great bands. So handing it off to him after I produced it just gave us another level of professionalism and expertise that made the songs a lot fatter and, just a lot better,
Well, since you mentioned the previous Babylon A.D. record was out on Frontiers Records. Now you're with Perris. Todd Poole from Roxy Blue once told me that Frontiers kind of released the album and then take a step back, leaving the band to its own luck. Did this happen to Babylon A.D. after Revolution Highway?
I kind of think it happens to every band that's on Frontiers. They're a good label, but they have too many bands, so they probably release, I would say, 2 to 4 bands a month, so you don't get a lot of attention from them. They do what they can for maybe a few weeks or maybe a month, and then that's it, but with Perris Records, it's completely different because we got a little bit smaller label, but more hungry guys, more hungry people that love the band and love the music, and all they're focusing on is us. So it gives us a much bigger footprint,
Considering the work Frontiers did to Revolution Highway, can you say that the outcome was satisfactory, or maybe they could have done a little more to make the album happen, make it bigger than it was?
I don't know. I just think that I really can't say if it's bad or good. I just know that for me, they put out too much stuff, so it's like cookie cutter, just keep putting it out, putting it out. But for us, it's better to be on a smaller boutique label that gives us 100% attention.
You mentioned that the fans are gonna love the new album. What aspects do you think will resonate most with your dedicated fan base?
What I think that people that hear the album, just as they've heard probably maybe heard the single or watched the video by now, what I've got back from a lot of fans and a lot of people that have heard it, such as yourself, different journalists and things like that, is we seem to have went full circle where our songs sound just like they did, like the sound of the band is back when we first started, our first album. I was talking to somebody yesterday. They said, some of these songs could have been right on your first album. It's pretty amazing that you still have the same sound after all these years. A lot of bands go through transitions and they can't ever capture what they did 30 years ago or 20 years ago. They just can't do it, And I think we captured that song and that sound because the guitar players, John Matthews and Ron Fresky, they play like that. That's the way they play, And the newest members of the band, the drummer and the bass player, they're hungry just like us, and they loved Babylon A.D. before they even knew that they were going to get an audition. It's funny because Craig, the drummer, he's only 23 years old. The guy's 23 years old, and he could play guitar, believe it or not, as good as he could play drums. So he is just like a monster. Yeah, it is amazing, man. He's a monster musician. And the funny thing is he was listening to us when he was 6 years old, playing drums to Bangle the Bells, Hammer Swings Down, because his mom and dad were huge fans of ours. So for him, it's like when we talk to him, he's like, he still feels like he wants to pinch himself. He can't believe that he's in the band that he grew up with as a little kid in elementary school, loving, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think this album reflects the band's journey and experiences over the years?
I think so. I think my lyrical content is a lot better, more mature, more interesting. That's the way I kind of look at things for me, because I write all the lyrics and the melodies and the arrangements and stuff. I just think that over the years, I've gotten a lot better, and I produce everything. So I'm in my studio quite a bit, where I'm at right now. And and I'm always just coming up with different ideas. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, the band's matured, but at the same time, we're able to capture the energy and the originality of the first couple albums.
Can fans expect to hear tracks from Home Wasn't Beaten a Day at your upcoming shows?
Yeah, so we've got Wrecking Machine as the first single, and that's out on video. The second single and video, which we've already shot, is Rome Wasn't Built in a Day, is going to be, that's our title track on the album, and that's going to be the second single. And then we're going to have a third single, Sometimes Love Is Hell, which is one of the ballads on the album. We've already shot the video for that too. So we're kind of ahead of the game. You know, we're not trying to play catch up anymore. We're just going to keep on riding this, man, and have a good time, you know.
You have some shows lined up, including performances at Whiskey A Go Go and Monsters on the Mountain.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about playing live?
The interaction with the fans, being on stage. It's just it's like a whole another level of getting high, I guess, if you're 18 and you smoke a joint for the first time. You know, it's like that, man. It's just a great rush, man. I love being on stage, love interacting with the fans, love it when you throw out the mic and they're all going, "Hammer swings down." The whole place is just, you're like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's what I love about it, man. It is. It's hard to explain because people that have never felt that feeling before, you know,
Yeah.
it's just a rush, man. It's great. I love it.
What can you anticipate from your live performances in terms of set list?
Set list. We do a lot of the first album because it's the most popular album, and then we go through all the albums have a American Blitzkrieg has songs that we play from American Blitzkrieg, Revelation Highway we play songs from, Nothing Sacred we play songs from. But since we have a brand new album and we're pushing that, we're going to be playing probably anywhere between 15 and 17 songs, and there's going to be at least 5 brand new ones, you know, from this album. So we got a lot to choose from now, you know.
Now I'd like to go down memory lane for a while. Can you take us back to the early days of Babylon A.D? What was it like forming the band in the scene of San Francisco Bay Area?
San Francisco Bay Area, yeah. So when we got together, we were pretty young, right out of high school, and we just started cutting our chops, playing around the Bay Area, and we got a fan base really, really super quick. I'm talking like within 6 months, we had a massive following. And I think that's due to because we all had a lot of friends, and we had a rehearsal spot that we used to charge people money to come on like Friday nights once a month. And the lines just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger just to come to our rehearsal place, and we'd put on a concert, you know? So then when we would play a club, the club owner would say like, well, how many people can you draw? We'd go, couple hundred, maybe 300 or 400. They'd go, what? You guys are a brand new band. We go, I don't care. You know, and so we sell out everywhere we play because all those people that had come to all our studio parties knew that, you know, that wherever they went, there was going to be a lot of hot chicks, and there was going to be a lot of cool songs and a lot of fun, you know? So yeah, it was great.
Moving to Hollywood in 1988 was a significant step for the band. What challenges did you face as a band transitioning to a larger music market?
Yeah, so we got we outgrew San Francisco Bay Area. You know, it was like we played the Stone and the Omni and all the places that you could probably play in the San Francisco Bay Area multiple times, and we had a really good fan base. And we got a manager that was living in Los Angeles. He said, look, you guys got to move down here. This is where the record companies are. And I'm going to get you a record label deal any day now. You know, the lawyers are talking with different labels. You guys got to make yourself known. And we had already been to Los Angeles 3 or 4 times, like small mini tours, right? So now we just decided to move there. And the funniest thing is when the whole band moved there, we moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with 7 guys, 5 guys in a band and 2 guys in a road crew, 1 bathroom, 1 bedroom. And we all just made partitions up where guys are going to sleep. We got there, I think it was on a Thursday. And on a Saturday, Clive Davis called our manager and said, I want to see the guys tomorrow at SIR Studios. Have them be there at 1 o'clock. So literally, we were there in Los Angeles. We lived there for 3 days, and we were signed on the third day. Is that crazy?
Totally crazy.
It's crazy. I know. We're like, well, I can't even believe it. We didn't even have to do anything except for just show up in Los Angeles. We hadn't practiced for about a month or anything like that because we were getting ready to make our big move, to Los Angeles. And then within 3 days, we had a record deal.
And the first album was a massive success with hits like Bengal the Bells and The Kid Goes Wild. How did it feel to have your music reach such a wide audience?
It's awesome, man. I mean, it's so crazy that after all these years, those songs are still in people's minds and in their hearts and in their, they grew up together as adolescents, and new people, new audiences. They hear a song like Hammer Swings Down or Kid Goes Wild, they're desperate, and they're still like, wow, I like that. It's new for them, so it's funny how music just keeps on transcending age groups and things like that. When something's good, you just know it. For instance, like me, you probably wouldn't believe it or not, but I listen to stuff like, Bob Dylan, or I'll listen to old Rolling Stones or old blues cats, Elmore James, Son House, guys that have been around like in the 30s and 40s. But I love that stuff. I would have never grown up with that stuff. I mean, I didn't grow up with it. I had to stumble upon, oh, I really like this, so I listen to a lot of different stuff, man. And I think that the younger people, as long as they jump out of their box, they'll find a lot of different music nowadays. That, it's just, music is if it touches your heart and your soul, it doesn't matter where it comes from as long as it's good.
Speaking of the three biggest hits of the first album, does any of them have curious behind the music story?
Have stories behind the music? What are you saying?
Thinking of Bengal the Bells, Hammer Swings Down, and The Kid Goes Wild, does any of these songs have some behind the song story?
Oh, yeah. Well, Kid Goes Wild definitely does. Our bass player, that song is kind of like about our bass player. If you listen to the lyrics, you're basically listening to his story. So I don't want to tell you everything what went down, but that's Rob Reed's story, our old bass player's story. Bengal the Bells, Shot of Love was written about, girls that I was going out with, things like that. Hammer Swings Down was about a chick, but it was about, pissed off, about the chick, you know what I mean? So they all have stories. They don't just come from my mind. I just don't imagine it. There's something that, there's some kind of truth in the thread. Nowadays, I write a little bit different. I take stories. Sometimes I take my friends' stories, you know what I mean, about their lives or whatever, and a lot of times I'll watch movies, and I watch a lot of movies, man, a lot of TV shows. I always have my whole life since I was a little kid. And a lot of times I'll get ideas watching that and see if it fits my life somehow. Or like, for instance, like Wrecking Machine. That's not really about me, but I kept hearing AI is going to take over the world, this and that. That's all been hearing the last 6 months or whatever, through the news channels and things like that. So that got me thinking like, well, what's going to happen when these AI robot hot chicks take over the world? So yeah, there it is. They're going to be wrecking machines. Yeah. So then I get the idea for that, and I get I hear the music playing. I'm like, yeah, this will fit perfect. And then the idea forms from there. You know what I mean? It's kind of made up like you would a film treatment kind of thing, but it's a good story. None of us know an AI chick robot, so I had to make her up.
Looking back, how did your approach to songwriting and recording evolved between the first album and Nothing Sacred?
The second album was really hard to write, and it took a long time because we had so many different influences coming at us legally, that kind of stuff. In other words, you get a record deal, you're really happy, you go out on the road, you tour, you have a great time. And then it's time to buckle down and do it all over again. Well, when the time you hit the second album, you start realizing that you're in a business. So it's a little bit harder to write songs, especially when you're on the road too. You're on the road so much, it's hard to write. You know what I mean? So when you come off the road, then the record company expects you to get in the studio and start writing, you know? So we probably had a batch of about 25 songs for the second album. But in all honesty, I'd say there was 10 of them that they weren't really good songs. You know what I mean? We were trying too hard. So luckily we ended up with good songs on the record, you know, but we had a lot of songs to choose from. And some of them I don't think I'd ever put on a record, you know? So the second album was pretty tough. And we had to wait for Tom Werman, the producer, a while too, because he was so busy with Mötley Crüe and a couple other bands.
And the early 90s were a tumultuous time for rock music, especially hard rock music. How did you manage to navigate this landscape of the music industry during the period?
Well, you know, there was a time where we didn't do anything for a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. We'd kind of fall off the planet, then come back and do something and go away again. Because of the changing landscape of the music, it just seemed like hard rock, like let's say take 15 years ago, whatever. Hard rock just seemed like it wasn't cool. You know, nobody was really listening to it. You know what I mean? And bands like us, there wasn't too many bands like us around. And I kind of think if I try to put my finger on it, I think Facebook helped a lot, just because it kind of drew people similar likes together. Like, whatever happened to that band, Skid Row or whatever happened to this band, you know? So people started talking about it, and then maybe they'd put out a single or stuff. So it gave us a shot too. People would be try to get a hold of us. Hey, what's going on with Babylon A.D? And we're kind of like, well, nothing really. Well, why not? You know? So it started swelling again. And right now it feels like there's a good groundswell of hard rock fans and musicians all pulling together, you know, to bring the hard rock back. And I'm not really saying it ever went away, but it really definitely, you know, slowed down for quite a while there, you know, but now it's on the upswing again. You can just feel it.
American Blitzkrieg marked a new chapter for the band in the early 2000s. How did your sound and style develop during this time?
That's actually my favorite album, to be honest with you. Well, this is my favorite album. That's my second favorite album. Yeah. Because I think that's the most creative album, you know, and as a producer and as a lyricist, and that album was really dark and heavy, you know, but I like it the most because it had so many different types of songs on it, you know. And Eric Pacheco, the bass player that played on the album, he wrote a lot of cool stuff with me on the album. So it was a little bit different than writing with just me or Danny or me or Ron. So I had another writer, and he wrote from like the 9 Inch Nails kind of position. You know what I mean? That's where his head was at, you know, Monster Magnet, 9 Inch Nails kind of stuff. So when he'd give me an idea, I'd say, wow, I like that, but it's heavy, you know. It was the heaviest album we did, that's for sure. But I like that one the most just because it's so different, you know.
Probably most hard rock fans. I mean, do you think hard rock fans in general are close-minded to this change coming from the bands they like? I mean, if they could choose, maybe they could ask the band to record the same album over and over again. Do you feel that? Did you feel that when you released American Blitzkrieg?
Yeah, we kind of did, to be honest with you, you know, because we knew we were stepping off the edge, getting away from our more melodic type of pop type of roots, heavy but pop roots. We knew that this was going to be a different thing. And some of our fans loved it, man. They was like, oh, this is the best ever. But some people were like, what? Man, this isn't Babylon A.D. It's too heavy or whatever. You know what I mean? Too dark. I kind of think of it as the same thing like when Mötley Crüe, you know, when Vince Neil left Mötley Crüe and John Corabi got in the band. That's my favorite album they did. When John Corabi was in the band.
True.
You know what I mean? That's my favorite album that they did. But so many fans said, no, man. I grew up listening to Vince Neil. I want Vince Neil. You know what I mean? But yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. You never know, man. You never know. Or like what happened with Van Halen, right? David Lee Roth was great. And then Sammy Hagar comes along. And you know what? Wow, Van Halen, they were able to pull it off with 2 different singers that were great. You know, they didn't pull it off with what's his name from Extreme.
Gary
You know,
Sharon.
yeah, they didn't pull it off with Gary, but they pulled it off with two guys at least. You know,
Yeah.
so you never know. You know.
Well, so then you released in the beginning a compilation of your original demo tapes. What
Mhm.
was like revisiting those early recordings after so many years?
Well, that was like just a phone call. That's the first. That was a phone call that was initiated by Tom at Perris Records. And he called me up one day. He said, "Hey man, don't you guys got like a bunch of demos that you might have did years ago? You know, fans like that stuff." You know, I said, "You know, I got a shitload of demos, man. I got all kinds of demos of songs. They don't really sound that great." He said, "Who cares? People like that stuff. You know, they like it when it's nice and raw and crappy." You know, I said, "Okay." So I went through my vault and I just started digging up some of the old songs. And some of the songs actually were songs that Clive Davis really liked. And we thought they were going to be on our album, on our first album, songs such as like I'm No Good for You, She Likes to Give It. We thought those songs were going to be on the album for sure. And they weren't on our first album. So if it was good enough for them back then, we figured, let's put it out, you know, and keep a little bit of momentum going. We weren't really writing at the time, but it was like something else to give the fans, you know?
And what inspired you to start playing and recording again back in 2014?
Uh, well, I've never stopped. I mean, I've had a couple of the bands that have had records out like Moonshine, American Blues Box. And I've had solo albums out myself too. So I never really stopped, but the band kind of took a hiatus. And like I said earlier, I think that's due to the fact that it just seemed like the music scene was, you know, lackadaisical, not as much, you know. And I think maybe Monsters of Rock, the Cruise, kind of helped it along. A lot of bands, you know, and they offered us some gigs, and some. All of a sudden, we just started getting phone calls out of the blue, out of Europe and stuff. Like, wow, okay, well, we haven't done anything. Hey, you know, these guys are calling us and wanting us to play in Europe, and wanting us to play the Monsters of Rock cruise, and other clubs were calling us just out of the blue, you know. So it was like, well, what the hell? Let's just keep plugging along, you know. It wasn't a hard choice, really.
And how do you see the role of Babylon A.D in today's hard rock music landscape?
How do I see it? Well, I kind of think that for right now, I think we're fitting in just right, you know, with everything. I like the new Extreme album. Sebastian Bach is coming out with a new album. I've heard some of the tracks. It's a really good album. There's a lot of bands I think that are coming, that are releasing stuff in the next few months, and we'll be one of them. But I'm just hoping that we're the standout. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
And what do you hope to achieve in the coming years?
In the coming years, well, our immediate goal is to put out another album next year. We want to play bigger shows, more shows, diverse type of places. Um, we're gonna shoot a lot of videos for every album because I also edit videos, so it's not hard for us to go in the studio and do a video. A lot of bands it is, you know, you end up with like a lyric video or something like that. We're gonna do a lot of that. I'm also writing. I'm writing a new album with Dan De La Rosa, the original guitar player of Babylon A.D. Right now, him and I have a side project, De La Rosa and Davis. That'll be coming out probably next year, early next year. So for me, it's just a musical journey. I just keep on going. Just keep on going. I mean, because I love it, man. I love it. I can't stop.
And as for my last question, the question that I ask most of the people, including Joe Corabi, which I interviewed yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And what was the most valuable lesson you learned in your career?
The most valuable correction. Most
Valuable, valuable
yeah.
lesson.
Well, a couple things. I'd say my nephew's going through this right now. He's 26 years old. He's a great singer, really good songwriter. He plays in a band. It's called the Hollywood Nightmares, and they're kind of like Disturbed. They got 3 albums out, and I know he's thinking about just giving it up because, you know, the business part, man, sucks. You know, that just weighs on you. All the business part. You just want to be an artist. You want to be a singer. You want to be heard. You want, you know, recognition for something that you've done. And if you feel you're not getting that because the business part is getting in the way, it really is it really kind of slows your creativity down, where you might say, what's the point? What is the point, you know? But like I tell him and other young guys, man, I felt that way before. Like, what's the point? You know, I'm writing all these good songs. No one's listening. No one gives a shit. You think that to yourself, you know what I mean? But you just got to keep on, going forth, man, and just never give up on your dream, you know? So I would say the worst part of music is the business part. You know, that's the only drag, man, is the business.
Derek, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. Good meeting you. Hope to see you someday.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.